First Minister, you're launching a series of independence papers tomorrow. Is this the start of the independence referendum campaign?
Yes, this is the start of the campaign afresh to make the case for independence in an interdependent world. There have been many changes since the referendum in 2014. In many ways, the world is a different place. The UK is certainly a very different place. In fact, I think if we could turn the clock back and people in 2014 could have foreseen the path that the UK would have taken out of the European Union, Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, then Scotland undoubtedly would have voted yes back then. Tomorrow's paper will be very much a scene setter, comparing the UK and Scotland's economic, social performance with that of a range of comparator countries across Europe. And it will very clearly, through evidence, make the case that Scotland as an independent country can do much better than we do as part of the UK.
You say if people knew now what they knew then, they might have voted differently in 2014. But if you look at the Ipsos poll just a couple of weeks ago, it's 50-50, down from 55-45 in favour of yes. And this is in the midst of the whole kind of Boris Johnson Partygate scandal. You should be streaking ahead and you're not.
Well, 50-50, of course, is much better than we
much worse than 55-45, which is what it was in November.
Sure. Look, outside of campaigns, opinion polls will come and go and fluctuate. But I think what almost every opinion poll, if not every opinion poll since 2014 has shown, is that support for independence now is higher than it was then. But equally, I've never shied away from the fact that we still, on the independence side of this debate, have a job to do. Scotland
You still have a lot of questions to answer, don't you?
Absolutely, and I set out briefly there what the first paper in this series of papers will address. Subsequent papers will look at the issues that people want and need to be informed about. So, for example, currency, Scotland's fiscal position, how we can build a more sustainable economy with the powers of independence. They will look at issues like pensions, social security, defence, intelligence, and European Union membership.
So when will you answer those questions? What's the timescale?
Over the weeks and months ahead, all of these papers will be published, making the substantive case for independence. That's the basis on which people will vote. But of course, we will counterpose that, of course, with the reality of remaining within the UK. Scotland, since 2014, has been taken out of the EU against our will. We are paying the price of that right now. Inflation in the UK is double what it is in France, higher than in any other G7 country. We saw the OECD last week project that UK economic growth will be lower than any other country, with the sole exception of sanctioned Russia. Businesses are struggling with labour shortages. So we need to lift our eyes and not accept the second best of the UK.
But there's another side to that,
on
isn't
the
there?
post-Brexit path it's on, but lift our eyes and be inspired by the performance of countries that are already
But there is another
independent.
side to that. In amidst all that economic uncertainty, it's difficult to persuade people to vote for upheaval.
Well, that's not what independence is. Independence is about how we best equip ourselves to navigate the challenges and fulfil our potential. To those who say that these challenges we face right now...
Are you saying it wouldn't cause upheaval?
All change needs to be properly managed, and that's part of the exercise that we are doing, to set out to people how we navigate the challenges, make the transition, build the infrastructure that an independent Scotland would need, so that we can then take advantage of the benefits it would bring. Now, let me complete the point I was going to make there. To those who say, well, we've got all of these other challenges right now, we shouldn't be thinking about independence, I think the opposite is true. We need to be equipped as strongly as we can to best navigate those challenges. And let's not forget that many of the challenges we're dealing with right now, all of the implications of Brexit, the slow growth, the higher inflation that the UK is suffering, the labour shortages, the lost opportunities for young people, they have been brought about, or at the very least exacerbated, because Scotland is not independent. So this is absolutely the time
to
decide
about Brexit
what
upheaval.
path we want to be
You're
on.
talking about the upheaval caused by Brexit, and you're not accepting that there would be upheaval caused by independence. You're just pretending, aren't you?
What I'm not accepting is your pejorative word. I am absolutely making...
You're accepting it for Brexit. You're accepting that there's upheaval from Brexit, but you're not accepting that there would be upheaval for independence.
I'm not accepting your majorative word, but I'm going to come in and address your question because it's an important and a fair one. If you, and you do remember as well as I do, as well as anybody does, Brexit was change that was advocated and then voted for with no information underpinning it at all. The lie on the side of the bus was as far as anybody got in putting a prospectus for Brexit. both in 2014 and since we're looking ahead now, when Scotland comes to make this choice again, what I'm saying is we need to set out very clearly the challenges that we will have to overcome, the transition, what we need to do to make that transition in order that we can deliver effectively the independence we want. But what we also will do is present to people what the prize of that is. Social and economic performance that is more like countries elsewhere in Europe and less like the UK tied into this outdated economic model outside the European Union that if Scotland remains part of that is going to curtail our potential, not maximise it.
When will we actually see the referendum bill?
Tomorrow is about substance, it's about kickstarting that debate on substance, on process, because securing that choice is, of course, an important question. Two principles underpin everything that we do here. Firstly, democracy. My government was elected with a mandate to deliver an independence referendum. We intend to honour that mandate. The other principle is the rule of law. We must make sure this is a lawful process. If we had a UK government that had any respect for democracy, we would undertake the same processes in 2014. In the absence of that, the competence of the Scottish Parliament to legislate is contested. I concede that. Therefore, we need to navigate a way that can deliver a lawful process. That work is underway. I'm not going to go into the detail of it tomorrow, but I will be saying much more about that very soon.
So when will we see the bill? Will we see it before the summer? Will it be September? When will we see it?
I'm not going to go into more detail about that right now. What I can say is that work is well underway to set out how we navigate this process to deliver a lawful referendum, and I will set out more on that and the detail you're looking for very soon.
So before the summer you'll set out
I'm
that
not going to
detail,
put a date on
but
it
not
right
necessarily
now.
give us the bill.
The work is underway, and when that work concludes, I will set that out, and that I hope and intend will be soon.
If you have a referendum campaign next year, will there be a place for Alba and for Alex Salmond in it? Because the yes camp seems a bit divided at the moment.
Look, the case for independence is about the future of Scotland, what's best for Scotland. It is not about any.
But in your campaign, will it be broad enough to include Alex Salmond?
Look, it's not about any one individual. It's not about me.
My question is though, so will there be enough room in your independence
me.
referendum campaign for Alex Salmond?
It's not up to me who supports independence. What I'm saying is it's not about me, it's not about Alex Salmond, it's about what's best for the future of Scotland. What I think we shouldn't shy away from in this campaign is that many of us...
Would you want to share a platform with them in the run-up to another referendum?
I'm the leader of the SNP, I'm the leader of the Scottish Government.
But that's a fairly simple question.
Alex Salmond is the leader of another political party. I'm going to concentrate in putting the case for independence.
Tomorrow you're sharing a platform with Patrick Harvey.
He's a minister in my government.
Yes, but he's also the leader of a different political party. Look, so would you share a platform in an independence referendum with Alex Salmond?
Look, I understand what you're trying to do here. You're trying to reduce...
I'm just trying to get an answer to a question, a very simple question.
But you're trying to reduce the campaign for independence to some kind of personal soap opera, and I'm not...
I'm just asking one single question. I've asked a lot of other questions about the independence campaign. Would there be a place for Alex Salmond? It sounds like there isn't. Not alongside you, anyway.
I will be putting forward the campaign for independence. Many other people will be putting forward the arguments for independence as well. But the campaign for independence is not about individual politicians. It's about the future of Scotland, and I think that's what we should continue
I need to move on. So we're facing a week of rail strikes. Do you back the workers' pay claim?
Well, firstly, can we distinguish between the different...
I'm talking
disputes?
about the RMT against Network Rail. Network Rail is owned by the UK government.
Yeah.
Do you back the RMT's pay claim?
I want to see Network Rail... It's actually a claim against Network Rail and a number of train operating companies in England. I hope, just as ScotRail has done and is doing with ASLEF and with the RMT in Scotland, I hope to see Network Rail reach a resolution with the rail unions that will avoid the strikes that are looming. These are negotiations, and it's important that these negotiations take place, but I would hope that Network Rail will do everything possible to avoid strike disruption.
And is there a part to play for the UK government in that?
A big part to play for the UK government. I listened to Conservative MSPs in the Scottish Parliament last week demanding that the Scottish government intervene in the dispute relating to ScotRail. Let's see if they make the same call in the UK government to intervene in the dispute that involves Network Rail, which, as you rightly say, is reserved to the UK government.
Now, that ASLEF deal of 5% means that in terms of the public sector pay negotiations that are going on at the moment, nobody's going to accept less than that, are they? Are you going to have the money to cough up?
Look, we live in a time of soaring inflation, fueled by Brexit right now. Public sector workers deserve fair pay deals. Equally, I can't spend money that the Scottish Government doesn't have. My budget, our budget, is still largely set by Westminster.
But they're not being offered
that,
a fair pay deal, are they?
Well,
2%.
Hold on a wee second. These are, in different parts of the public sector, negotiations that are underway right now. In the health service, for example, literally as we speak today, there are negotiations underway. It would be completely wrong for me to seek to cut across them in a television interview, but we will be seeking to deliver fair pay for public sector workers, who of course make such a massive contribution to the overall well-being of the country.
Yet you won't get involved in the invite of Unison or COSLA to even talk to them about it, despite saying that there's a big part for the UK government to play in the real talks.
Again, that's a mischaracterisation of the position. The Finance Secretary will discuss with COSLA, with the trade unions.
She wrote last week to Unison saying that she wouldn't.
Well, look, we will.
COSLA say that you won't talk to them, neither will she.
We've got to respect the situation in terms of the employment relationships here. These are council workers. But
they're asking you to speak to them.
These are negotiations that will take their course over the next period, and we will continue to behave in a way that delivers fairness for public sector workers.
But there's a part for your government to play.
Look, these are negotiations that will be taken forward in the right and proper way. I'm not going to sit here in a television interview and conduct public sector pay negotiations.
I'm not asking you to do that.
Well,
I'm not. All I'm asking you is the question that Unison and COSLA have asked you is, why won't you speak to them?
There are well-established processes in place for different public sector workforces.
They've specifically asked you and your Finance Secretary to speak to them, and you're both refusing.
The Finance Secretary will, on an ongoing basis, have discussions with COSLA and local government about budgets and about money. But fundamentally, councils are the employers of certain public sector workers, just as the NHS, responsible to the Scottish Government,
but you're not going to intervene in any
employer.
of these pay disputes, in any of the possible strikes. We could see schools closed in August, and yet you're not willing. Well, that's what Unison have said, and yet you're not willing to get involved.
We get all sorts of to and fro while negotiations are underway. You started this discussion on public sector pay talking about the Scottish Government intervention in rail. We will continue to bring to bear the influence we have to.
Did you make an intervention in those talks?
It was negotiated by ScotRail.
So you didn't intervene in them at all then, as the government?
No, I was just basically paraphrasing a question that you'd put to me. So do you want to hear the rest of my answer or don't you? We will continue to conduct these negotiations properly by well-established processes. And this is what distinguishes me from Boris Johnson. Many things distinguish me from Boris Johnson, but this is one of them. I've got deep respect for those who work in our public sector. I want to see fair pay deals, but we have established processes, we have a limited budget, and we've got to work within all of that to deliver fairness to the best possible extent.
You're now the longest serving First Minister. Do you think you're doing a good job?
That's for others to judge.
I know, but do you think you're doing a good job?
That's not. You're not going to drag me down the Wendy Alexander route, and I don't know how many of your viewers will get that reference. What I would say is this: it is for other people to judge. But I've been First Minister for just short of 8 years now, and I have fought and won over those 8 years 8 elections. So the most important thing is that people across the country continue to put their trust in me to be First Minister.
The biggest one would be the referendum, wouldn't it?
Look,
that's your biggest challenge.
Every election I fight is important because it is about winning and re-winning the trust of people across Scotland. Of course, I want Scotland to be independent, and therefore, yes, I want to fight and win an independence referendum.
Now, you want the referendum next year. What will we get first, a ferry or a referendum?
The ferries are under construction, and we're focusing on delivering those. Equally, my government won a mandate for an independence referendum, and we'll focus on delivering that as well.
First Minister, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.